Raditz. He wasn't supposed to be here. Not alive, not again. But there he stood, not a ghost, not a memory, but real. Goku couldn't explain it. His brother's energy felt different, not just stronger, but older, seasoned, cold, focused. And Vegeta. He said nothing. Just stared. Not out of fear, but calculation. This wasn't the Raditz they remembered from Earth. No desperation, no pride, just presence. Nothing, but just presence. Beerus watched from above, arms crossed, eyes narrowed. This shouldn't be possible, he muttered. And then Khalifa, of course, showed up. Of course she did. No questions, no hesitation. She just saw a warrior and wanted to fight. But this wasn't a reunion, this was a crack in the timeline. A warning with the face, and deep down Goku felt it. Something terrible had followed Raditz into this world, or worse, he brought it with him. The silence between gods. The air shifted. Even without speaking, Raditz was saying everything. His silence had weight. Not anger, not arrogance. Intent. Goku stepped forward, not to fight, but to understand. Where have you been? No answer. Just a glance like he'd been seeing too much, or explained too much in his words. When Vegeta's scouter clicked off, he didn't need numbers, but he felt it. This Raditz wasn't chasing power, he embodied it. Beerus, floating lower, just slightly, not to intervene, he's just been observing this whole time. He'd seen universes collapse for less than this. Shadows of who we were. Raditz finally spoke. A low voice, tired but sharp. Don't look at me. I'm still him. Goku would of course blink and say, still him? Raditz would look toward the sky, this universe. It's one of many, and we know this. I died in another, and then woke up in one that never needed me. Vegeta's fist tightened. He hated riddles, of course, but he knew pain where he heard it. Khalifa rolled her shoulders. Quit talking like a ghost. You're here now, so pick a side. Raditz turned to her, eyes calm. No, I came back to warn you. And then there was silence, but why? Even Beerus would narrow his gaze in this sentences. Warn us of what? Raditz would then close his eyes, and it's just then when universes die. They don't just vanish, they bleed. But from what? Raditz's voice carried weight now. They bleed into each other, like cracks in a glass. Vegeta would then step forward and say something like, you expect us to believe the multiverse horror story. And Raditz wouldn't flinch. He'd say believe what you want, but the thing that took my world, it's looking for strongholds. Goku would then narrow his eyes and say, what kind of thing? Raditz would then meet Goku's gaze and say, no ki, no life, just hunger. Khalifa would scoff. Ha, sounds like another bug god that needs punching. Raditz would then shake his head. This one doesn't fight, it replaces. Beerus' eyes would flick and open, barely. He'd heard whispers, echoes, but nothing confirmed. Raditz then would continue to say, you'll feel it before you see it. Time skips, memory gaps, familiar places twisted. Vegeta frowned, like the Hall of Echoes. Raditz nodded. Starts from there. The Hall of Echoes. The Hall of Echoes. They have arrived. Not through flight, not by warp, not by flicker, space holding on to breath, like glass. Halls of Echo had stood a time, a temple outside of time. Vegeta would scowl, sensing old memories, sharpening like knives, knowing his knowledge. Khalifa would look around and essentially say, what is the Hall of Echoes? Goku would say, is this something about the timeline where Zenon was erased, but the echoes remained? Raditz would then reach out, pulse back. There would be some sort of stone shimmer that would actually show up in this time, but not etched, at least not as remembered. Beerus would hover and say, this place shouldn't exist. Whis. Raditz would say, this is where the bleeding began. It's thinning. There would suddenly be a tremor, a quake, convulsing, and then something happening far from the chamber. A sort of shadow rose, something reminiscent of a near future. Not walking, not unfolding. Goku would get ready. So would the others. The Hall of Echoes would just awaken, but maybe not yet. The one who remains. The shadow would then step into view. This wouldn't be a god or a mortal, but a fragment torn from the erased time. Maybe a Saiyan that never was. Maybe a flickering between black, gold, something broken. Goku will whisper, another version of me. Beerus would say no, something worse. Cracks, aura forms of Super Saiyan, maybe even Blue, Ultra Instinct. but different forms that actually hadn't been reached. These were different. Caulifla would be ready to leap in, reckless, but she would sense something that would actually push her not to. There would be an echoing, something calling. These warriors, they're different, they would feel it. Traditional mortals would not. What is this that they're sensing? What kind of key? What in the past has been ignored in previous Dragon Ball lore? That's what our fighters will be figuring out. That's how everything will be rewritten. The chamber will begin to collapse through the hologram.